Good morning, students. Hello and welcome to Avyan IAS Academy. I am Anandi Ghosh, and today I would be taking up a certain part of your grammar, that is verbs. So as all of you might have some idea about what a verb is, because the verb is the most important part of the sentence, and the word verb is derived from the Latin word meaning verbum. Because it is the most important part of the sentence, it is called so. To give a rough definition of what a verb is, it is a doing word or anything that expresses a sort of action. A verb can be something about what a person does. For example, the child is sleeping. Here, your sleeping is the verb as well as is the verb. In sentences, in certain sentences, we might have more than one verb. As you can see, here we have the word is and as well as sleeping. So, the next thing that the verb does is what is done to a person or a thing. For example, he has been scolded. So this is an action which is being done on the subject. He has been scolded. So here scolded is the verb that is talking about something that has been done to a person or to a thing. For if we want to talk about something done to a thing, we can say the cat has been poisoned. So this expresses something that has been done to the cat, as scolded expresses something that has been done to the subject he. When we come to the third part, it is like what a person or a thing is. For example, the animal is dead. This also talks about something that has happened to the subject, that is the animal, that is dead. So these are the three brief things which verbs generally does for us, and to sum it up, it talks about actions happening to the subject of the sentence. So since we have now dealt with what is the basic of a verb is, now we'll go over to the types of the verb. The two main types of the verb which we will first be taking up would be transitive and intransitive verb. However, remember that most of the transformations which we take up in the sentences would be related to the transformation of verbs. However, initially, we would begin with the transitives and the intransitive verb. So, what is a transitive verb and what is an intransitive verb? For the first would be the transitive verb, and the next would be the intransitive verb. The transitive verbs, to explain, they are verbs which would need an action or which would need an object to complete the meaning of the sentence. So, for example, we will take up the cat killed the mouse. In this sentence, the word killed is the verb. Here, cat is the subject and the verb is, this is the subject and killed is the verb in the sentence. However, to complete the action of this, we need an object, which is the mouse. So, hence, this verb is known as a transitive verb because this verb needs an object to complete the meaning of the sentence. The intransitive verb, example, of an intransitive verb would be the child sleeps or he eats. Words like eats, sleeps, these are words which do not need an object to complete its meaning. Such verbs are known as intransitive verbs. This sentence in itself has, these two sentences has got meanings complete in itself. Hence, they are referred as intransitive verbs. However, for this sentence, if we would have left the sentence as the cat killed, the sentence wouldn't have been complete in its understanding of sense. There would have been still a question mark about what did the cat kill. And that is the basic difference between a transitive verb and an intransitive verb. However, when we come to talk about objects, there can be, not always, however, there can be two objects. The direct object and the indirect object. For example, to understand the better way what a direct and indirect object is, we will take this example up. His father gave him a watch. In this sentence, his father gave him a watch. Father is the subject of the sentence because he is somebody who does the action. Him, a watch. The action happens on the watch, hence that is the direct object, and him is the indirect object because it is happening through this agency. Hence, in certain sentences, we might have two objects. One can be direct and the other can be indirect. But in certain cases, it might just work with one object. However, coming to the next part of understanding this, there can be words which can be used as both transitives as well as intransitives. In such sentences, we will deal with as you might know that verbs can be used both in the transitive or in the intransitive sense. It depends mostly on their usage. For example, if we take this sentence up, the wasps fought bravely. In this sentence, bravely is the adverb, fought is the verb, wasps are the subjects. So when we say the wasps fought bravely, even if we do not include this word, we just say the wasps fought, this would make it an intransitive sentence, or rather an intransitive verb, because this sentence would still have a certain meaning with just the verb fought and not having an object. However, if we want to use the same word, the enemies fought us well. So if we are using the same verb in a different sentence where we are speaking about the enemies fighting us well, here we need an object to complete the meaning of the sentence. Hence, this verb is a transitive verb. That is precisely the difference between a transitive verb and an intransitive verb. Whether we are needing an object to complete the meaning or we do not need an object to complete the meaning of the verb. So as we were discussing about the transitive and intransitive verb, from these examples, let us quickly find out which are the transitive or the intransitive verbs. In the first sentence, the sun shines brightly. Some of you might have assumed or understood which if this is a transitive or an intransitive verb. So here the sun shines brightly. Here shines is the verb and it is an intransitive verb because it does not need an object to complete the meaning of the sentence. The boy cut his hand with a knife. Here the word cut is the verb and here it is being referred to as the boy has cut his hand with a knife. So this needs an object. In fact, there are two objects. There are both the direct and the indirect object. So that makes it a transitive verb. In the third sentence, the policeman blew his whistle. Here, the policeman is the subject and blew is the verb. Blew his whistle. So in order to complete the verb meaning of the verb or blew, we are using the object whistle. So this also makes it a transitive verb. In the fourth sentence, we are saying an old beggar stood by the gate. The old beggar is adjective. The old is adjective and beggar is your subject or noun. Stood by the gate. So when this verb stood needs to be completed, it needs the word gate. So this also has an object. So that makes it a transitive verb again. However, if this a sentence would have just dropped this part and said an old beggar stood there, it would have been an intransitive verb because it did not need an object to complete the meaning of the word stood. But since it has an object at the end, by the gate, it makes it a transitive verb. I looked down from my window. The verb looked needs the object window to complete its. The reference of the look is being passed over to the object window. Hence, it makes it a transitive verb again. However, put away your books. Here, the word put is a verb and it needs the word books in order to complete the meaning or to make the sentence a complete one. Hence, this also makes it a transitive verb. So by now you all must have understood how to deal with the transitive and the intransitive verb. So we'll quickly deal with when adding prepositions might make a verb transitive. In order to do that, we'll quickly take up a few examples, which are adding prepositions to make the intransitives as transitives. For example, he was laughed at by him. Here, by using the verb laughed being joined by the preposition at by him is making this he was laughed would have been an intransitive sentence, but adding the laughed at and finishing off the sentence with by him, here which by is an object, makes this a transitive verb. For the next sentence, we talked about them. Again, here the verb talked is being followed by the preposition about them. This similarly makes a intransitive verb of talked into the transitive verb, since it needs an object in order to complete its meaning. Now we would go over to the cognates. For doing the cognatives, cognate objects, when we have sentences like he laughed a hearty laughter, we can also have another example as I dreamt a strange dream. So as you can see from these two sentences, he laughed a hearty laughter. Here we are using the noun form and the verb form of the same word. And also in this we're using dreamt a strange dream. So we are using the noun form and the verb form of the same word. And that makes it an cognate, makes these the cognate objects. Since this is causative, this is the cause of his the hearty laughter is the cause, and the strange dream. So this works as your cause and effect relationship. So since these are also sometimes referred as the causatives or the cognitives. So that would be all about mostly your transitives and intransitives. So now we will do a quick recap of all the things that we dealt in today's class. So we began with what verbs were, and then we went over to what the verbs can do. The verbs are generally the doing words. They would be talking about actions of things, animal, or when something is done to a thing or an animal or an object, or somebody is at the receiving end of an action. For example, Hari was scolded. Even this word scolded is also a verb. And then we went on to discuss the two main categories of the verb, that is the transitives and the intransitive, and how having an object at the one or more than one object to complete the meaning of the verb would make it either a transitive verb or an intransitive verb. Verbs which do not need an object to complete their meaning would be referred as transitive verbs, and the verbs which need an object, one or more than one object, the direct and the indirect, would make it a transitive sentence. At the end, we dealt with the cognates, with the cognitive objects, and also we talked about how you can add prepositions and transform a intransitive verb into a transitive verb. So that was all for today. Thank you. Have a great day.